Counselor Allemond. Here. Counselor Smith. Here. Counselor Harden.
Here.
So we have Gwaltney absent, so you have one absent, you got 4 here, so you got a quorum.
They did, didn't they? Okay. I
Are
told
you
them.
mad at me? You don't answer my call.
All right.
I would make a
Good
motion
evening, everyone.
to approve the minutes as presented and
Second.
not read them.
Okay, that's for April 3rd.
That.
And
Smith, Harden.
Counselor Smith made the motion, Counselor Allemond seconded that. Any other questions on that? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. 4-0, that passes. Okay. I'm going to start at the top. We have several items here. Starting with old business 2504-17, request for consideration of 18th Street revitalization project. And I'll just say this is getting close to
Did you go
being
out today?
removed from the agenda.
I went over there.
So-
It looks good.
It's, somebody hit one of the lights.
It wasn't me in the city car, I promise.
One of our decorative poles.
Yes.
Oh,
Wait, where? On 18th?
no. On 18th. Okay. Cale, could you give us the update? Did you see it?
Yeah, so they started milling today, 18th Street. If you were on 18th Street and you saw it, you had problems navigating around it.
If you went to the post office today, you really did have
Yeah,
problems.
that's right. So they're gonna mill today and some tomorrow if they didn't finish today, and then they'll start paving back on Wednesday, Thursday.
Thank goodness for good weather.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And the only question I had was from the turn on Valley. What is the timing of?
So they
of that?
have run into bad material, bad soils, and they're trying to get compaction there, so they might have to excavate a little more and bring in better material. But the plan was that they were gonna, when they paved 18th Street, they were also gonna pave that round.
Well, that's what I had thought too, so that's not happening.
They're gonna try to make it happen tomorrow. If they
Okay,
can get their compaction to work out.
Bad soil at the turn lane?
at the turn lane.
Yeah, I saw them down there. There was a whole group of guys like,
There was that huge
Peering
tree
into
that
the-
was right there too.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. Keep it moving.
Yeah.
Tell them to keep it moving. It's only taken 2.5 years, it seems like. Okay, so we'll carry that over, only for a few more meetings. Okay, with new business, okay, Counselor Gwaltney is here, so we have a full house. Under new business, 010423, request to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with the Assistance League of Birmingham and pay the 22-23 appropriation. This was sent out, this is Operation School Bell, this is already budgeted. Anyone have any questions on that?
nope, I would make a motion to approve that.
Second. Okay, moved by Counselor
I just did.
Smith and seconded by Counselor
And I told you I was
Allemond.
gonna do the other.
Moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to sign that contract. Any other questions, comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed with
Abstain.
the same sign?
Abstain. I'm on the
Abstain,
board.
okay. So we've got 4-0 with 1 abstention. So that passes. Okay, 020423, request to participate in programs with the Lakeshore Foundation. We have Jeff Underwood, my previous president, from a while back.
okay right here?
Yeah, you're fine, yeah.
There's,
Great.
look under that. I think on that clipboard, there's a sign-in sheet.
Well,
just-
he done.
I'll sign in.
Okay.
I'll sign in for it, Lisa.
Okay, perfect.
And that's something that you have to do. Well, thank you for your time. I won't take much of it. I'm here representing Lakeshore Foundation, but having retired a year and a half ago, I'm somewhat of a special assignment that, quite frankly, I initiated on my own. But I've tried to keep my distance from Lakeshore because there's a new sheriff in town, and it's his job to run the place now. But with that said, I think many of y'all know, and you, quite frankly, you hopefully over the last couple of weeks saw a little bit on the news, because it was all over the news and in the Homewood Star about a really exciting thing that happened at Lakeshore. But just a little bit of background, if hopefully you know by now that Lakeshore is a great resource to the community and the state, helping people with physical disabilities be as active and as independent as they can through sport, fitness, recreation, nutrition, etc. Been doing that for a long, long time. Also, part of that story at Lakeshore has been to reach out nationally to America's injured servicemen and women, to bring those individuals here for various camps to help them learn how to live active lifestyles after their injury. With those two sort of pieces, in December, I think it was, I was reading a Washington Post story about the number of Ukrainians who were being injured, and that they were coming to the U.S. Mainly to get new arms or new legs, in some cases have eye surgery. And it just sort of struck me that there would be a real value if we could find a way to get those injured Ukrainians here in this community to get to benefit from the expertise of Lakeshore. So I went to John Kemp, who's the current CEO at Lakeshore, and I pitched the idea to John, and he said, "Jeff, it's a great idea. If you can sort of help us develop a program and raise some money for it, then we'll be totally in on that." So I was able to identify an organization out of Orlando called Revive Soldiers Ukraine. They are already bringing injured Ukrainians to this country, which was one of the very big hurdles. Coordinating with a country that's in the middle of a war, how do you address the logistics? How do you find a partner? And then the second part of the second big challenge was, while people are in the middle of a war, are they even ready to start thinking about life after their injury? But this group in Orlando, I met with them. I took a little time to meet with the head of that organization in person. I went down to Orlando and met with her. She's Ukrainian. She's been in this country for about 15 years. In fact, if you go to their website, Revive Soldiers Ukraine, you can learn all about Lakeshore's new partner. But she was totally in on this, and she said that she thought that the soldiers that were currently here could benefit tremendously from this more practical application of rehab, because they're in the country, they're getting new prosthesis, or they're having eye surgery, but they're going through rehab in a very clinical setting. And if they could come to Lakeshore, then they could get sort of what she started calling it recreational rehab, learning how to use their new bodies in a more practical setting. So very quickly they embraced the idea, and then, quite frankly, it kind of surprised all of us how quickly she was ready to start sending some of, she called her soldiers here. So we had a pilot program. We wanted to start kind of small. Had this pilot project a couple of weeks ago, and these two soldiers and the fiance of one of them, came here. They were here for 10 days. These programs don't cost anything to the participants. And they had a tremendous experience, and now they're going to be the strongest advocates to their comrades and they all want to go back and fight. They want to go back to the war. They want to defend their homes. They want to defend their country. But they talked about how valuable that experience is. So it's off to a really good start. And I think now now that we've kind of beta tested it through this pilot project, we're really ready to scale it up. And so the reason I'm here, one, make sure you're aware of that, but two, also I told John Kemp that I would do everything I could to help raise the money. I know how it is at Lakeshore in the middle of a budget year when all of a sudden some new initiative comes up. You don't have that in your budget. So what John and I talked about was trying to raise $100,000 to do the program for the rest of this fiscal year, which is probably 2 camps. And so far we've raised about 70 of that, a little over 70. So it's been successful so far. They're already planning on the next camp, but I'd be interested in having the city of Homewood consider supporting this financially. When I first talked to JJ, I mentioned $5,000. Any support we could get that Lakeshore could get. It's not me. I'm kind of the agent for Lakeshore. So it's a request for city support to help fund the program. And I think if there's some aspect of this that if there's a somewhat of a quid pro quo. I think y'all all know that Lakeshore is available to do programs such as disability awareness for city employees, department heads, whatever. There's probably, I've talked to them a little bit about a discounted program for city employees for the day-to-day membership at Lakeshore, and I'm sure something could be worked out there. And if the city were to support it, I know Lakeshore would be glad to buy an ad in the Homewood Star thanking the city of Homewood for your support. So there's some things that the Lakeshore is prepared to do and willing to do as a thank you for any support you might give. And that's the pitch. That's just a little quick flyer on the program. I'll be glad to answer any questions. And one thing Lakeshore is committed to do is their fiscal year starts in October, and they see this as a sustaining program, and they would build it into their budget for next year. So we know the program's going to be sustainable because Lakeshore is committed to doing that. The money we're raising now is to get us really through the end of their current fiscal year.
And the next, since the pilot program was the 2 guys,
Right.
and that have they gone back?
They went back, let's see, what's the day? Today's Monday. They went back last Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
They went back, not to Ukraine.
Okay.
One of them had been in Orlando, one had been in Chicago. So
Okay.
the first thing they did is they go back to
Where
the
they
city.
were.
And then I think sometime, one of them was actually going back to Ukraine in April, and the other one early May. They had been in the U.S. for about 8 weeks.
Okay, okay. And in this next camp, as you called it, do we know how many?
We're trying to get
people are gonna
6
be?
or 8 or maybe 10.
Okay.
And the model that Lakeshore has always used on the military camps is bring a family member, bring a partner, bring a friend. In this case, one of the participants had his fiance with him, because going through the program with somebody who's going to be with you, once you leave, is very helpful. So it could be 6 to 10 participants plus whoever they bring with them.
Yeah.
And the budget for these things is a little bit unpredictable because one of the big challenges, neither one of these guys spoke a bit of English.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we had some paid interpreters, but we found some local people from Ukraine living here locally who volunteered their services as interpreters, which was huge because.
I had some ladies who worked for me at Trinity who were Ukrainian.
Okay.
That worked with me.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's amazing, honestly. And I can't think of how exciting it must be to have these guys who have been through who knows what here in Homewood and getting to have their rehab at Lakeshore, because my mom was at Lakeshore and it's an amazing place. So, I mean, I would be supportive of it. Where would that money come from?
Well, I mean, in order to support something like this, we have to be able to assess what the benefit would be to Homewood citizens. I mean, with anything that we provide support on, we have to be able to document what and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Kendrick, I mean.
No, it has to serve a public purpose.
Yeah.
Jeff knows that. If we could work out a contract that would address that issue,
Yeah.
but it would need to serve a public purpose before we could spend public funds.
Right, yeah. I mean, in my view, it's similar to supporting, because all the participants at Exceptional Foundation aren't necessarily from Homewood.
They
but-
all provide a service.
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
city of Homewood.
Well, yeah.
It's a little unique that we have non-US citizens.
Right.
It's a little challenging for the public purpose, but
Right.
we can work on that with them.
Okay.
Would there be like educational opportunities?
Sorry?
Like maybe educational opportunities where, I don't know, young folks or folks who want to interact and engage?
One thing that's on the table for the next camp is more of a, and I can't promise this because it is a community event associated with it, which could be an educational event. It could somehow incorporate the schools, or possibly, but the sensitivity is there. You want to make sure that the participants are not put in a situation where they are not uncomfortable, a situation that they in fact are prepared for. Now these last 2 guys, they loved having their picture made, they loved telling their story, they were great. I mean, they could be the poster children for this program. We just hope that going forward, the participants are of the same mind. But a community event, or an educational event of some kind is certainly one of the things that Lakeshore is talking about. Because one thing that I discovered as I started pulling this together and talking to people around town and raising a little bit of money was how many people with Ukrainian connections are in the Birmingham community. And they're, you know, it seemed like every time I sort of turned around, there was somebody else who had some kind of connection and was interested in being involved in this. So there's a lot of interest in the Birmingham community for people to sort of somehow connect to this. And I expect that's going to happen. It's just still kind of sort of being formulated, I guess I'd say.
And the participants, because don't y'all have some housing there?
Yeah,
on
they stay on
Lakeshore?
campus
Right, yeah,
in
they stay
the housing.
Yeah, okay. Again,
And I'm sure Lakeshore would be glad to consider, you know, whatever, if it sort of meets the test of public benefit. If there's something that you want to sort of, if you feel like needs to be done in order to satisfy that requirement, then I think you just need to sort of let me know or let Lakeshore know, and let's have a conversation about it.
Okay.
and I think like we can figure that, yeah, or figure that out.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
All of our contracts are phrased in a fee for service.
Yeah, right.
Some service to
Yeah.
the city.
Okay. Again, I'm supportive of it. I think it's really an incredible, and I think it would be really cool for people to be able to engage and see kind of, hear from those folks. And I understand, obviously, they're being treated for injuries, so you don't want to make them feel like they're having to be show ponies, you know, trot them out to do a show. But I mean, it would be really cool, I think, for people to understand, because it's such a huge international event that,
You know,
these are people who've
I was
really-
at Lakeshore 30 years. Now, I was around a lot of people who'd been through a lot in their lives, and including a lot of U.S. servicemen and women. But for two people whose country was still in the middle of a war, and the attitude they had about it, I was blown away by it. These two guys were just incredible, and I'm just thinking, they've got to know every day, at the end of the day, or every minute of the day, they're cognizant of what's going on in their country, and the fact is they're trying to live life to the fullest, and because they're not trying to become superstar athletes. They're trying to get to a point where they can go back in and help defend their home and defend their country, which is pretty amazing to me.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's probably sort of beside the fact when it comes to.
Yeah. So do we want to work on this one more time in the committee, or, I mean, I'm open to suggestions on I think we need to.
I mean, I
We just
think
gotta-
if we could work with Mr. Kendrick to try to figure out the language, and figure out how to make
Yeah.
that part of the contract. And we're talking about $5,000.
And it would, just have to,
It'd just be new money, carryover fund balance, so I'd have to establish a 0111
Just a
appropriation
line item.
account for Lakeshore Foundation.
I mean, I would make a motion to do that.
Is there 5,000 you said?
Yes, with the, working out the language for public benefit with Mike, so that contract makes sense, and then taking the money from, like you said, from carryover fund balance and establishing that line item.
Second.
okay, it's been moved by Counselor Smith, seconded by Counselor Allen.
Jeff, do you see this as a,
And Mayor?
do you see this as a recurring, like annual?
I would not. I would see this as a one-time request to the city of Homewood.
Okay,
I think he said they're gonna try to build it into the budget for
Yeah,
next.
that's Lakeshore's
In
commitment.
October.
all right, just wanted to make sure.
This would be to get them
Yeah.
through to the end of this budget year, since it wasn't part of the original
Right.
budget.
Okay.
Good question.
And is the money
Well,
somewhat,
we got budget coming in.
I know.
somewhat to get them here physically, and then while they're here, the cost of them here? Is
I
that,
can do the budget.
generally what it
Just keep
is?
saying if you want to put it in the one resolution or whatever.
you gotta physically get them here somehow.
Right. Well, for the pilot program, we shared the group out of Orlando paid for one of them to get here, and we paid for the couple to get here. Now, we're not sure on the next group. if they're currently the way the model is currently working, all the participants would be people who are currently in the U.S. So we're depending upon this group out of Orlando as kind of our intake.
Okay, so they would, y'all aren't bringing them from Ukraine, they're already here.
That's correct.
And this is just getting them from wherever they are in the United States.
That is
to here.
correct.
Okay,
To
got it.
Lakeshore.
Now,
Yeah.
if this really sort of grows, there's talk about, I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard of the Invictus Games. These are the
Yeah.
games that.
Prince Harry.
Prince Harry. There's some talk about, the group out of Orlando has asked Lakeshore if Lakeshore would consider being a training site for the Ukrainian team for this year's Invictus Games. Now, that would be a whole different ball of wax, but that's, so, I mean, I think just the fact that when I started talking to people about this idea, I asked quite a few people in DC and in Colorado Springs if anybody else was doing this. And they said, everybody said, no, not yet, but if, somebody needs to start doing this. So we, here in Homewood, it started, so got off to a good start. Yeah.
All right,
Is
then
the,
moved and
Jeff, is the
seconded.
downside that there's a chance you won't get anybody here? You'll raise some money and there may not be any more folks come?
I would say that before the pilot program, I would have said that's a possibility. With the group in Orlando already, they bring 60 or 80 people into the country at a time for a period of several weeks and months. So that intake issue seems to be addressed, and the war is certainly not about to end. So.
All right. Okay, any other questions? All right, been motion seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That's 5-0.
So do we need to have a conversation then about the public benefit test
Yeah,
at some
we can-
point?
I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah, Mike will call you.
I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you, Jay.
And my employee at Trinity, her name is Tatiana Gavrakova. Both employees graduated from high school at Homewood. They live in Homewood. And
Okay.
they're Ukrainian.
Okay.
So I might get
Well,
her
why-
in
can-
contact.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank y'all.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on, 03-04-23. Request to amend FY 22-23 budget for street department. I think we sent that out this afternoon. Do you want to, this is mainly for the American Legion project. And Ms. Andrus, this, I guess, the next two items are yours. So this is basically, we thought we could probably get that done with what we had in the budget, and we really don't.
I'll be short. I had 2 other projects that we had to get done with.
I mean,
so it's going to take me, I won't have enough in there to complete it, so it'll zero out my line item for the
So
year.
this is a request for $28,500 within your
Yeah.
your department to handle it. And it's certainly a needed project, and we don't need people driving the wrong way, as we recall how that
Well, and we've
configuration was. But
we've got to get the people there's delivery trucks that are parking right there on that sidewalk,
Yeah.
exactly where so we've got to stop that. And maybe the construction will help.
okay, so that's the main thing. Wasn't there another item on there?
There's $1,000 to vehicle maintenance from carrier fund balance because I didn't put enough money in the repairs and
Okay.
maintenance and Gordon had a couple unexpected repairs in the Explorer
That's a
and stuff.
safety issue,
Out of
yeah.
he needs to put 2 tires on. I don't have any money.
All right, so this is basically instead of just for the one, it's for the 2 budget amendments? Okay.
We only added it because it was an emergency today. I'm
Yeah.
totally out of money and he couldn't
Yeah.
put the tires on. So, and I still think it's a 9:30.
So you need some tires?
I'll be
Okay.
walking.
I will make a motion to approve the 2 budget amendments as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved by Counselor Smith, seconded by Counselor Harden. What is the timing on that, Berkeley? If you
They are actually starting on, we finished the Berry Road, storm drain project, and we've got one other, he's starting probably tomorrow over off of, Iredale and all over in there. And as soon as he gets done with that, then they'll go to the, American Legion project. He told me probably within 2 weeks, they should be getting started on.
Okay, thank you. It's been motion seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. I hope I didn't do that twice. 5-0, that passes. Okay. All right, moving on. 040423. Request for consideration to fund 2 litter getters.
Leader getters.
So we have 2 litter getters. One is in Griffin Creek and one is in Shades Creek. We have had a grant from the Freshwater Land Trust that paid for the one that was in Shades Creek. That is expiring at the end of June. So overall, it's been a great project. To date, this site has collected over 1,000 pounds of trash and 300 pounds of recycling. That's from Griffin Creek. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit.
So that's that one over on Broadway?
Mm-hmm. That's one over on Broadway by Jay and Lamb's house.
Yeah.
So she came to me in Berkeley to talk about bundling the 2 together for a discount, and so that is what we are at. In addition, in Berkeley, I'm not sure I know the answer to this. She said she did include that brochure about the tactical cleanups.
There they
Yeah,
are.
they come in and
Okay.
there's a group, they go up and down the waterway doing cleanups, removing some logs and stuff like that, plus the trash that's along there that may not get all the way down. So that's a great thing. Walter and I talked today. I budgeted 25,000 for ours for the year.
That's right.
So I would say this, and you and I can talk with them, but I would love to get it on October 1 to September 30th.
Yeah.
So I would really, all we need to do is if they would, is let us fund the one just till September, and then we can come back in the budget and put the 40,000, add the extra 15 for the year. But I've already got 25 in there for the one, so
Okay, that's right.
I would just say if we could, how many months is that?
So it's at the end of June, so July, August, September.
So
is 3.
if it's $7,500, and just put it in my contractual service line item, and then I can just pay for it, and then we can start it in the fiscal year and start going October 1 to September 30th.
Which we do for Griffin Creek.
Yeah, we already
We
did
do
for
for Griffin
Griffin
Creek.
Creek.
So wait, you want the 7,500 and 0120 contractual services?
Yes.
Okay.
So is our motion to make a motion to move
just
from
do
carryover fund balance?
new money.
No, it's already in his,
I already have 25 in there.
The
I would just need
7,500 would be new.
7,500
Okay.
And get them to let us just take it for the one in Griffin Brook, let us take it till September, and then we'll start over anew with the new one.
So you need
in October.
7,500 from carryover fund
Yeah.
balance, new money to be
Yeah,
added to
just
your
do that.
0120 contractual.
Because I've already got 2,500, or 25,000 in there.
Is there a contract we have to sign with?
Yeah, but my thing would be just to ask them to extend our current one,
So we can get on a fiscal year?
and then we could get the new contract in October for Mike then.
Then I'll just do a budget amendment, resolution for that.
No
Yeah.
resolution authorizing mayor to sign.
I'll
Yeah.
message tomorrow and copy you.
Yeah, and just ask would that be okay, if we would just let us pay them the 1,500 a month for the Griffin Brook one, and take it till through September 30th, and then we'll
Pick them
start
both up.
anew with a new contract.
Because, I mean, that's a substantial
Yeah, that
discount,
one's-
put the 2 together
yeah,
like that.
It is.
So,
So right
do I
now,
need
we're
to
just
make
gonna write a
motion
resolution
to-
to amend your budget. We won't be to authorize the mayor to
That's
sign a
right.
contract unless you say differently.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I need to make a motion to move 7,500 from carryover fund
Yeah.
balance to his
Contractual services.
contractual
Contractual
services
services.
account?
I got you.
And,
Oh, sorry.
okay. Is that it?
Second.
Okay,
Walton.
okay, moved by Counselor Harden. I think that was Counselor Walton that seconded that. Okay. All right. Any other questions about that? Thank you for being flexible with that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That's 5-0. Passes. Our last item, 050423, request to set bid date for City Hall parking deck repair and restoration project. We have Mr. Pugh here tonight, and I think we printed this off for everybody.
Yeah, this is the parking deck restoration project. We've already, I've provided you all with a copy of this as well. we've already finished the visual assessment and the technical specs. Project scope of work is all right here. It includes everything from exterior precast wall, joint restorations to masonry walls to the concrete on the parking deck. It's a very comprehensive scope of work. So now it's time to move forward with actually getting it done. Just today, I was sent an update on the cost of the bid phase services, which Hickson Consultants will do for us, which includes the prep for pre-bid, solicit bidders, conduct pre-bid on-site, answer RFIs, and review bids. So they'll do that for $43.75. The rest of their proposed services are also listed on there. If you want to go ahead, move forward with those.
And these are leaks in the parking deck that are coming, water coming in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there are lots of problems. Lots of problems.
General maintenance.
What's the total again?
It's just trying to do maintenance on
18
it.
years.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, some water will just eat that
There's the
concrete right out here.
$43.75, then there's the $17,460. If you just move on down to
Okay,
$34.05.
And
It is
we're
budgeted?
It's not budgeted, no.
And so we're setting a bid date also.
Yeah.
Are y'all asking them to the budget or?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
I know I've been a proponent of trying to get this done as soon as possible, because it's got issues with deterioration of things. Do we want to set a bid date before we know when they're going to have the bids ready?
Yeah, thanks for speaking up on that, because that's probably, we may be putting the cart before the horse here. We may need to get Hickson involved on this
Okay.
first and hold off on setting the bid date. So I think that's a good.
Okay.
They're the ones that did the initial inspection when the deck was built, and really the primary reason we got a 15-year warranty was with their help and guidance, because they're water specialists. I think the world of their services they gave us 15 years ago, and I work with the sentence with them. They're not cheap, but they are very good, and I think we really do need somebody to come in and inspect the work that has the specialty and ability to make sure we get what we're paying for, and that it's what we need.
Yeah, that's.
So then do we just need to
That's
make a
wise.
motion to move the money
I think so.
to cover the initial
I
costs
think that's where we are.
and then hold off
Yeah,
on
we can
setting
have
the
a
bid date?
resolution authorizing this proposal if you want your money on it.
Okay.
And then they can tell us when they have the bid ready.
Exactly, I think that's where we are.
How much, I guess I didn't, how much money are we needing to move the budget for it out of 43.75?
Here, I'll leave this with you.
Yeah, probably the
Talking about-
43.75 would
But-
cover
Yeah.
prep.
But I mean, will this not have to be done unless y'all do the project when it gets bid, or?
Yeah, this can be done later. I
That can be
just,
done in next
it
fiscal
can.
year.
It can. There's no guarantee that the prices will remain exactly the same. These prices are generally good for 60 days, so.
So really, right now, are y'all amending the budget for the 43.75 to actually solicit bidders or prep the bid? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, at a
I think we're doing
minimum.
the 43.75 right now, and then we
Yeah.
can take up the other in a few weeks if we want to, or later on, but
That's
I
right.
think
Where are you
tonight we're
asking
just
it to
doing the
go?
43.75.
Not to get them to look at
I
it.
guess that's gonna go in engineering services.
Well, we paid, I think last year, we had Hickson Consulting, but we had to get it for fixed assets for ours, we didn't capitalize it, but I think last time it went into, it was either in 1211 or 0111 contractual services, just their work. The actual construction or whatever may need to go in capital, but do y'all just want the pre-bid? Do y'all want it to go contractual, or where do you want it?
I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, I would say contractual.
Contractual.
Someone else has a different cost.
Discuss the capital.
My recommendation right now, I know Robert's not here today, but would be 0111 contractual services, and then if it ends up becoming a project.
I think if it becomes a project, that's likely going to be next budget year
Okay.
anyway, so I think we would be able to do a new line item at that point. So I would say, since this is gonna be limited for this budget year, let's start with just contractual services.
So I'll just give you a price. It's gonna be new money from carryover fund balance and general fund 0111. Is that okay? Okay.
What about this comms line? You don't care about that in terms of being able to start this work? There's a line, says typical phone conference Zoom. I don't know if that's required for the city pre-bid period. It's for $700 a month. And should we consider that part of it? Is that necessary?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you were saying.
The typical
7.
phone conference, Zoom calls and emails, just so they can communicate, are they gonna charge us for that? And should that be part of the arrangement right now? This says it's for $700 a month.
Yeah, I would think that that's probably more for once the project is going.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good question. I think it's one of the ones we take up later on. I think right now, if I understand it correctly, all we're doing is getting the bidding part going. And then once we get into
Then we
the
determine scope.
construction project, that's when I think that would probably kick in.
Yeah, this part's just identifying what they feel like needs to be
Well,
done. Set off.
we've got a
Have they
scope,
done it?
we've got a very
Yeah.
complete scope, now we just need to bid it out. And-
Oh, okay.
and
So they've gotta get the bid
HCL's
specs
gonna
ready.
handle all
So is that just that section 3 right there, is this we're asking the 4375?
That's right.
Okay.
Will we put money in the budget to have them inspect the?
Oh, yes, yeah, they have, there's other tiers to that, as you can see, that are gonna involve the construction management all the
Yeah,
way through.
okay.
All right, so I would make a motion to approve amending the budget to cover the bid
Bid
phase of the project to the tune of, what is it,
4375.
And then we'll deal with the bid date and the other parts of it when we get to that point.
So you want to send it out and carry it over in committee next Monday?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Moved by Counselor Smith, second by Counselor Alomont. Any other questions on that? Thank you for that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. 5-0, that passes.
And can I ask a question? Down on the table is 041222, which has to do with the, no, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. The 170223, which has to do with the work in the right-of-way for the American Legion. Can we drop that? Since we're already going
Do we
forward
need
with it?
approval to work in
'Cause,
the
I mean, if
right-of-way
we're
for
working in our own
project?
right-of-way, we don't have to do it. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we can.
Yeah, we good.
Yeah, we don't have
Drop
to.
that.
You can drop that.
Yeah.
So
You wanna
you
take it
sure-
off
All
the
right,
table?
yeah, so I would move to take 170223 off the table.
Second.
Okay, moved by Counselor Smith, second by Counselor Harden, that we'll move that off the table.
And then I
All in
would-
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, that passes 5-0.
And then I would move to drop.
Move to drop. Is there a second? Okay, second by Counselor Gwaltney. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, that passes 5-0, that's dropped. And with that, we're adjourned.